and we all pursue sales opportunities with the zeal of a righteous cause. The bigger the opportunity, the more organization and resource torque it produces. The online store both significantly complements sales improvement ideas and is a source of inspiration for new sales opportunities. Rapid support or development from a software development standpoint means being able to quickly and reliably respond with new features by leveraging a variety of system assets and external services through integration. We've always viewed sales facilitating applications like the online store as requiring the potential for a high degree of differentiation. It's these applications that we want to pour our innovation into and channel all our development attention. The intent is to ultimately evolve a uniquely valuable competitive asset that elevates our brand. Achieving this or pulling it off begins with a software framework or infrastructure that is eager to respond to change and has the elasticity to extend itself in non-predetermined ways. That's what attracted us to the notion of an open source solution.
Brian, we'll turn the conversation to you. Broadleaf Commerce is a fairly new open source product, the Container Store obviously being your first client. Can you tell us a little bit about the genesis of Broadleaf Commerce and what prompted you to start and build the solution?
Sure, Kevin. We started Broadleaf Commerce in the later part of 2008, but the idea really started well before that. Personally, myself, and as well as the other architects and developers we have on the product, had experience with a large number of e-commerce implementations in a wide variety. Some of those were using package frameworks, like in ATG. Some of those were using homegrown solutions, using open source technologies themselves. Over this period, 2006, 2007, I personally had the opportunity to meet with a lot of clients that were looking for scalable, highly customized solutions. They were faced with a decision that was pretty difficult. It's, do I build my own and I get all of the customization and it fits my business exactly, but there's a huge cost there of going through all of those prerequisites to get to the place where I can start to customize, or do I buy a package solution and highly customize that? And that's a difficult decision that I can understand and relate to. I've done both of those things, and the right answer varies per person. But as we go through, that gave us the idea that we can solve this problem for folks. We can give them a platform that has those basic features ready to go, and those commodity e-commerce features everybody needs, but also is a platform that's built for scalability and customizability.
So Brian, who do you believe your target market is for Broadleaf Commerce?
I see three target markets. Really one in particular is companies that are considering do-it-yourself e-commerce. If they're building their own, there's a reason they're doing that. It's maybe because they have a lot of customizable needs, but those companies could get a starting point with a Broadleaf Commerce that really gets them to a better place, and they're not maintaining those commodity features. Secondly is companies that need a highly customizable e-commerce solution. These are requiring, maybe they require many complex integrations with their existing store and back-end systems. Those companies are a great fit. And a third category is companies that have a highly scalable need. Maybe they have relatively typical e-commerce needs, but they need to scale to a large degree. And in those cases, licensed software may actually be a real challenge and a barrier for them. Another key characteristic that I would say about our target market is that companies that see their web as a strategic platform, like the Container Store. It's a way to differentiate their business. We also think that in general, these companies are probably doing around 20 million online. Is just a rough figure, and the higher you go and the more complex you go, a framework like this really empowers you. We're looking for ways to make Broadleaf Commerce accessible to some smaller companies, but our focus is going to remain on those enterprise customers that need a highly customizable, highly scalable solution.
So Brian, with that said, what differentiated value do you see for this client demographic?
It's a great question. The key thing that I see is the speed of innovation that Broadleaf Commerce is going to enable. With open source, think about this. Your developers are empowered to make the changes you need for your business. If you contrast it with a closed source solution, the developer may not be able to make that change. That change might be in the framework code that exists with the provider. They may need to wait on the next release of that software. You may need to, your schedule's dependent on the releases from someone else, and then once you get the release, you still got to implement it on your site. So it's really speed of innovation, I think, is the key differentiator.
Tom, we'll come back to you. In evaluating open source alternatives as compared to traditional and commerce software platforms, what evaluation criteria did you establish prior to making your decision to go with Broadleaf Commerce?
Well, prior to the selection of Broadleaf as our e-commerce engine, we had established our strategy to significantly escalate our improvement focus for e-commerce and multi-channel customer development in particular. With an aggressive agenda in front of us, we knew the first step was to address the platform. We knew whatever solution we select, there will likely be significant ongoing enhancements to the feature set. Similarly, the effective execution of multi-channel processes requires a high degree of integration with other operational systems. As a result, our primary criteria was more about establishing an extensible and reliable platform as quickly as possible. The sooner that was in place, the faster we could begin delivering on our strategic improvement plan. It was at that time we discovered that an open source alternative was not only viable, but preferable. Beyond providing a strong foundation with a rich feature set as a launch point, it could be deployed quickly, and we could redirect the significant cost savings to our strategic improvement agenda. The compounding effect of a strong platform that could be deployed quickly at a significant cost savings was the most compelling decision factor. I mean, for us, license and maintenance fees for an e-commerce engine are largely unproductive investments, yet they continue to increase over time, don't adjust or readjust during periods of economic uncertainty, and really don't help much mitigate risk, nor do they typically align with what we consider our best opportunities. It's clear to me that those funds are an easy target to realign.
Tom, you and your team ultimately selected Broadleaf Commerce. What were the attributes of the solution that caused you to make that decision? And then a follow-on question to that is, can you share with us your experience during the implementation phase of the project?
Sure, Kevin. The Broadleaf solution unifies the best collection of open source components into a single, well-engineered enterprise solution. It's based on a stack that has wide support from the development community. It's a solution that was created by a team having deep domain expertise, a successful track record of building e-commerce sites using open source components, and a strong software development discipline. And I know, Brian, you're going to want to jump in here a little bit and talk about particularly support from the development community and so on.
Yeah, you bet. We talked about Broadleaf as an e-commerce framework, but underneath that framework are a lot of very good frameworks. Spring Framework is one that 70% of the Java developers are aware of and using today. But there's a lot of other frameworks that we put together that help with scheduling, queuing, and other complex needs of an e-commerce site. We've put these together in the best way for an e-commerce implementation. We've used industry standards when we can, like JPA for persistence technology. And if you contrast this with commercial frameworks that use proprietary or outdated technologies, this is a compelling factor when evaluating your e-commerce frameworks.
You know, we engaged Credera to help us with the implementation. It was an extremely well-managed engagement and exceptionally talented team that worked well with our internal team and our culture. There was great knowledge transfer, and we adopted basically many of the practices that Credera introduced to us, and that proved valuable well beyond the borders of this initial engagement.
So Tom, how has the site performed against expectations?
Our online store has experienced